Hey, so the Lazy Peon put out a video, and I thought we'd watch it. I've had a lot of people talking to me about microtransactions lately, and this will be an interesting one to see.
The sad truth about MMORPGs in 2024 is that many of them are ruined by their monetization. Rampant, shameless pay-to-win seems to be everywhere nowadays, especially in the MMOs coming from Asia. Many people play MMOs as an escape from reality. You might be broke as a joke IRL, but in-game you could be a legend, a PvP god, a raider with legendary gear that other people are jealous of. These games have the potential to give people a sense of status that they might otherwise never experience in the real world. I and many others genuinely miss the time where our only concern when a new MMO was announced was how good the game would be, not with how the devs are going to try and weasel their way into our wallets for infinite cash.
It's such an odd thing because I don't really play a whole lot of MMOs that have really, really aggressive microtransactioning in them. The only one that I would say falls into that list is MapleStory. And I play that MMO almost exclusively on Reboot, or I'll play, I have a pretty large account on that game in general, so I do have characters across other servers as well. But I just tend to not be super bothered by microtransactioning because a lot of times in the MMOs that I play, microtransactions, if they are for convenience whatsoever, are the absolute pinnacle players who are really purchasing them. The people who are already really high in the leaderboards and they want just a little bit of 2 times XP, or they need that in order to move forward in their account or whatever. So I find that it doesn't really do a whole lot to me usually, and also I just kind of avoid the MMOs. Do they release really high tier MMOs that are aggressive with microtransactioning? Because in my brain, all of the microtransaction MMOs are mobile MMOs or games like Fly for Fun that were around forever ago and came from Korea, and they have 500 active players at all times, and now they need all these microtransactions in order to make themselves go forward. Games like even like Dungeons and Dragons Online or games like Lord of the Rings Online, you tend to be able to get a lot of the microtransaction content just from waiting around for an event to happen, and then you can log in during certain times and type in a coupon code and you'll just get every single chapter that they've ever released. And then I'm playing Guild Wars 2 right now, and I've been told that basically if you would have bought the expansions when they were coming out, then you would have gotten all the in-between patches as well, but now you have to pay for the extra in-between patches, so that's quite a bit of microtransactioning. Elder Scrolls Online does that as well, where you buy a DLC now and you only get the base story. You don't get the in-between patches as well with it. You have to purchase those separately. And then there's subscriptions and all these different things. The monetization of a game is a really complicated subject, for sure. I'm actually realizing as I'm saying all this out loud.
So in this video, we're going to talk about the least pay-to-win MMOs. Bear in mind that pay-to-win is a spectrum. Almost every MMO exists on this spectrum in one way or another.
Totally.
And every single MMO in existence can be pay-to-win.
A spectrum is like a circle that has little prongs that stick out of it, and you have certain points in each direction. And it builds a spectrum around it of all the things, just so anyone's aware. It's not like a T-bar graph or anything where you're a dot in the middle of it somewhere.
If you break the rules and pay someone to play on your account, or you illegally buy gold on third-party websites. But considering that's against the rules and you could get your account banned for doing so, we realistically can't consider that pay to win. If we did, there'd literally be no games on this list.
Totally.
The MMOs on this list are either not pay to win at all, low on the pay to win spectrum, or have their pay to win capped to an optional sub fee or battle pass. And just like how pay to win games bully your wallet, unwanted subscriptions you signed up for 10 months ago and forgot about will chip away at your bank account just as quickly. But don't worry, I've got a game changer for you. Today's sponsor, Rocket Money. This app is like your personal finance superhero swooping in to save the day. First off, it helps you cancel those sneaky subscriptions you don't even use anymore. Just a couple of taps in the app and bosh, no more wasted money. Next, it tackles those pesky bills. Snap a photo of your bill, hit a few buttons, and Rocket Money will negotiate a lower rate for you. Internet, cable, phone bills, they've got you covered. And finally, Rocket Money helps create a budget that actually works for you. It tracks your spending, sets limits, and even gives you friendly reminders if you're going overboard. Seriously, people are saving up to $740 per year with Rocket Money. They've even cancelled over $500 million in subscriptions. So what are you waiting for? Join the 5 million people who are already taking control over their finances. Go to Rocket Money.
So people have this thing where they always go, why don't you just skip the ads? You're only giving them one more view, blah, 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 all this. People don't realize that embedded ads in YouTube videos are paid out by the amount of people who use the link. That's why everybody has their own personal link so that the company can see how viable it is for them to actually have given you that money in order to advertise on your channel. So people seeing this link right now, if you want to use Rocket Money, you can go and do it, and it will support the Lazy Peon still. That's why I still watch the advertisements, just so everyone's aware.
.com/lazypeon, or click the link in the description to get started for free. So because pay to win is quite a subjective topic and everyone seems to have their own definition of what constitutes pay to win, I put out a poll for my viewers to vote on whether or not they considered an MMO to be pay to win or not. The results were interesting but also not entirely accurate in my opinion. I'll show the results in this video, but do take them with a pinch of salt. If anything, it does a better job of showing community sentiment towards a game more than anything. Oh, and
there's a really interesting thing that happens in MMO communities, something that I've been noticing a lot over the past couple of months, is that there's a dogpiling effect that ends up coming around whenever someone starts to have a certain opinion, you know? If a game is considered to be pay to win, it almost doesn't even matter if it is pay to win or not. People will just mark it as being pay to win in their brains, and then they'll never play it if being pay to win is a game that they will never play. So something like Lost Ark, right? I've never played Lost Ark. Lost Ark's pay to win. How do I know that? Because everyone in the world says so. Is it really? Do I need to pay money in order to have some fun in Lost Ark? Will I not enjoy the game whatsoever unless I spend money on microtransactions? I'll never find out because in my brain, it's pay to win, so I don't play it, right? And that's such an odd thing that we do as MMO players, where we just kind of regurgitate all of these statements about the games because there's so many of them and they take so many hours, and you just assume that someone who has an opinion, that someone who's played the game enough to have an opinion on it must have the right opinion. But that's not always true. I find that to be just so absurd, and that's how you get these weird fallacy sort of things. How many times have you guys heard someone just repeat an opinion that Asmongold has said, and you hear it and you go, I literally know where that opinion comes from. I know which video of his he said that in, and I know which one you watched to figure out that opinion. And it's such an odd thing that happens in the game. So I'll be excited to see what the community's votes were.
And to bear in mind that there's also a few super old MMOs that aren't mentioned on this list that probably aren't pay to win, but they're literally dead in maintenance mode or not worth mentioning. First up, Final Fantasy XIV. This game was overwhelmingly voted as not pay to win, and I definitely agree with the results on this one. Final Fantasy XIV is a subscription-based MMO where you need to buy the latest expansion. The game also has a cash shop in which you can pay to skip the MSQ, pay to level boost each of the game's classes, as well as buy various cosmetics such as mounts, costumes, furniture, emotes, and dyes. Final Fantasy XIV isn't considered pay to win because there's no way to spend money and get anything that will help you buy endgame gear. Some might consider the skips and boosts to be pay to win, but I personally wouldn't because there's no challenge to the leveling in this game. You're essentially paying to not watch what's essentially just a very long movie, which is perfect for people like me who don't care about the story and just want to get into the endgame content.
And I can't be the only one who feels that way as well, that I was very almost turned off to Final Fantasy XIV by the fact that I had put over 200 hours into it and hadn't even made it through the third expansion yet, and I'm still multiple expansions away from getting to current content. And it's... In a lot of games, I don't have a problem with that. So in Elder Scrolls Online, I enjoy playing through the old content because it doesn't feel like it's dead to me. The worlds are still thriving. There's not an expansion that you can go to in Elder Scrolls Online that doesn't have people running around and doing the content that you can't type in the area chat and say, hey, I'm going to do a world boss run. Does anyone want to come with me? And you'll get 8 or 9 people. Every single expansion has that available to you. Whereas in Final Fantasy XIV, it really is just dead content a lot of times because there's no level scaling. It's vertical progression. All of those things sort of apply to that. And that makes it this sort of frustrating thing a lot of times whenever everyone knows you're a sprout because they can see it above your head. You're running through the content and you're just trying to get through it as fast as possible, but you're also trying to pay attention to the story because everybody tells you that it's the best part of the game, and if you don't vibe with it, it puts you off to the experience sometimes. I wish that they would have kept the old content more relevant somehow. I don't know how they would have done that, but it could have been nice if they're going to force you to play through it in order to get to the newest content. to keep it feeling relevant and not feeling like, oh, I'm literally just running dailies in this content so that I can get enough tombstones so that I can buy the gear, and then that gear is the best gear that I'm going to have throughout this entire content. All of the gear that I get during this looks terrible as transmogs. There's just, it's a really, I don't know. Final Fantasy XIV is a game that I want to go back to and try to play it again as a class that's not Paladin. But in general, Final Fantasy XIV ended up being one of the ones that I just haven't been able to force myself to get through because of how easy to get through all the content is too. I mean, you can basically just turn on tank stance and run through, and everyone will just destroy everything when you queue up for the dungeons. And if you use NPCs, it's a little bit more difficult. I don't know. I'm just ranting about it at this point. Final Fantasy XIV, does anyone else not like the story that much in it and found it to not be a good enough reason to get me to play through 400, 500 hours of dead content?
Guild Wars 2 is another beloved MMORPG that many people don't consider to be pay to win. Guild Wars 2 is one of the few big buy-to-play MMOs with no sub fee. Whilst Guild Wars 2 doesn't have any kind of sub fee, the game does have a cash shop that sells convenience items as well as cosmetics. You're also able to buy in-game gold for real money via crystals. The reason Guild Wars 2 isn't considered pay to win is because you can earn gold in-game normally, then convert that gold to cash shop currency, and buy everything on the cash shop without spending anything. There's basically nothing for sale on the shop that a free player couldn't get access to with a bit of grinding. Additionally, Guild Wars 2 doesn't have the typical gear treadmill that other MMOs have. It's a full horizontal progression game, so you can't really win by paying. It also has equalized PvP in Arena and BGs, and the only impact gear has PvP wise is in World vs World. Winning in Guild Wars 2 basically comes down to completionism, collection and fashion, so definitely not a pay to win game. New World is a buy.
And I'm really noticing with Guild Wars 2 as well that it seems like it's such a skill-based game that the mastery of the system. So if you haven't played Guild Wars 2, let me give you just a quick little rundown of what I'm noticing as a new player who's in there getting into it. There are multiple skill bars for you at all times, and so you're sort of trying to, and there's multiple weapons that you can wield that change what skills you're actually using. So you sort of have to create a build based on which weapons you're going to use, and then you have other things like hero traits that you unlock in order to sort of create your build around the weapons that you're already using and what you need to fill in spots for and what you need to increase the power of. And then on top of that, then you have a specialization system which allows you to sort of micro into something completely more. But then you shift around dependent on the situation that you're going to be in, what you're actually going to be using. So it's a very knowledge-based game and a very non-hand-holding game. And there's just the microtransactions are there for sure, and there is quite a bit of convenience items. Like one of the best items that I've noticed in the game or in the shop is that for 800 gems, which is about $8-10, something in that range, you can buy a teleport to friend item that recharges every 10 minutes instead of disposable ones or consumable ones that you would get during the game. And that's an absolutely huge item. If you have teleport to friend items, you guys can very easily do world bosses together whenever they pop up in between your leveling system. So there are definitely things in there that add to your convenience factors for sure.
To play a game with a purely cosmetic cash shop and a battle pass that contains cosmetics, minor crafting materials, a small amount of gold and dyes. New World is definitely not pay to win, and I'd probably consider it to have one of the most fair business models in the MMO genre. The fact that 28% of people I polled voted that it was pay to win made me realise that I should take these poll results with a pinch of salt, as some people just seem to be voting in a way that reflects their positive or negative bias towards a game. World of Warcraft Classic. So there's two different versions of Classic WoW right now. Vanilla WoW, which is 0% pay to win due to it having nothing purchasable on the cash shop. Then you've got Cataclysm Classic, which is definitely higher on the pay to win spectrum due to it having a cash shop where you can buy level 80 boosts, as well as the WoW token, which you can buy then sell for as much gold as you want. As much as I hate the WoW token and consider it a form of pay to win, you can still clear all the content in the game and achieve BIS without buying it. So Vanilla WoW, not pay to win. Cataclysm Classic, on the spectrum of pay to win, but not too high up.
I have absolutely got to go and play Vanilla WoW at some point. I never really got to play it back in the day, and it's such a game that you need a group of people for, so I need to go back now that I could probably put together a group of people and actually play it, because I I just regret so much that I was never around for Classic WoW. And there is something about that game that just looks appealing to me over Retail WoW. And I'm a person who likes Retail WoW. I enjoy it. I'm going to be playing the War Within. I have a good time in Retail WoW. I think it's a fun system. I enjoy the leveling and the grinding and all those things. But something looks cooler about Classic WoW, and I can't put my finger on it, but I have a good example, which is that when you see someone running around with two swords that are both glowing, there's just something about that that looks rad to me, and I really... And that applies to everything in that game. The stylization of it, I feel like, was just a little bit better back in the day, and the need to spend time in zones sort of acquainted you with the world in a better way. Whereas nowadays, you just spend so little time in each zone that you go to that it almost doesn't feel like you have any kind of bond with the world, at least for me when I got through it.
World of Warcraft Retail. This is the most controversial game on this list with a 50-50 split, and it's a lose-lose for me. I'm going to get hate comments for including it or not including it, so in the end I asked myself this. Is WoW Retail high enough on the pay-to-win spectrum that I wouldn't play the game? And the answer is no. I play Retail WoW, I enjoy it, I dislike the WoW token, and for a buy-to-play sub-fee MMO, I can completely understand why people complain about the monetization in this game. Can you hard pay-to-win in Retail WoW? Yes, you can buy tons of WoW tokens, then spend the gold on getting boosted through all the content in the game.
Totally.
Arena boosts, BIS gear, all of that stuff. But you certainly don't need to do that, and I reckon a tiny percent of the player base actually plays the game that way.
Pay to win is such an odd concept in general, I think, because what people are really talking about is that you are able to spend money in order to not play the game. But whenever I think that winning in an MMO is being actually good at the MMO, and you're not winning if you didn't ever get good, if you didn't ever learn, if you didn't ever memorize the mechanics of bosses, if you didn't ever figure out how to find the items that you need at what point during your journey, if you don't have that inbuilt knowledge, you haven't beaten the game. I don't care if you have best in slot gear. I don't care if you're out here doing whatever, getting boosted through raids. I don't care if you've beaten the raids. I don't care if you have the pets. If you don't know how to do it, if you can't show someone else how to do it, if you don't know what it takes to be successful in this game without spending a ton of money on it, you haven't beaten the game. You just haven't. I don't know why that's such a controversial topic. There are people out there who want to spend money so that they can sort of feel included in a community, but it's just, you can always sense it. You can always feel the kind of people who have bought the gold, who have bought the microtransactions, who have boosted themselves through. You can always feel it. They just don't have the same kind of passion for the game. They have some kind of negative opinions, or they just don't know. You can just tell.
Old school RuneScape, very simple business model. You've got free-to-play worlds, which are essentially a free trial, and you've got members worlds, which require a subscription. Members can't use their members-only items in free-to-play worlds, which basically means that free-to-play players have their own meta and best in slot.
Yeah.
OSRS doesn't have a cash shop, but you can buy bonds, which is a membership token, then sell it for GP, which you could use to buy some of the best gear in the game. Unlike other MMOs, however, RuneScape locks a lot of its best gear behind quest requirements, skilling requirements, and mini-game boss challenges. Skill massively outplays gear in RuneScape PvP.
100%.
You also drop all of your gear on death in the wilderness too, so even if you bought expensive gear, you'd still get smashed by someone with worse gear who would then take it off your hands.
Yeah, I've said it 1,000 times that this game isn't pay to win. There's no way that you can call it pay to win, in my opinion, because you can get some of the best gear, but you still have to earn the ability to wear that gear, whether it's through training skills or whatever. It's going to take you a long time. There's such a knowledge barrier that goes into RuneScape. It's just not pay to win. Also, speaking of the free-to-play experience, I'm still in free-to-play in this game. I've obviously have members accounts and I have multiple accounts and all that stuff, but on my series account, I'm still in free-to-play, and free-to-play is good. This might be the best free-to-play experience of any MMO that exists currently, period. I mean, it is dope. I've been in Camdesol for the past 4 days just trying to kill golems to get my mace from them. My attack levels are going up like crazy. I almost have attack, strength, and defense all at 40. My fishing has gone way up because I've had to be getting food. The experience is so good. It's all really confined too, so it's all very close together, so you don't need all the mobility tactics that you're going to get in membership. Free to play is sick, dude. If you haven't played RuneScape, old school RuneScape specifically, go play free to play. Go do it. It's a blast. It genuinely. There's 15, 20 quests or so in free to play. You can get through all of them over the course of about 30 hours. The rest of the free to play experience will take you probably about another 25, 30 hours, something like that. So probably 50, 60 hours into the game. You'll really have a really good idea of whether or not you like the gameplay loop in this game and the way that it works. Most of the best items in the games are untradeable or locked behind quests, as he said, which have a pretty high skill requirements. It's going to take a lot of time to get there. It's very good, man. There's a very good community and a very good culture behind old school RuneScape. Go play it.
Even though I don't consider old school RuneScape to be pay to win, it's undeniable that the fact that you can buy gold does take away from the satisfaction you'll receive playing a normal account. Your drops from monster kills feel less impactful because there's a direct money value associated with it. This is why I play an Iron Man account, which is absolutely 0% pay to win.
Keep yourself away from trading. In all MMOs, keep yourself away from trading for as long as possible. Genuinely. I believe that that's a great thing to do. Don't try to go and buy items. Try to earn the items. The games are made and set up for you to go and earn the things that you're getting. You will like the game a lot more. Guaranteed. 100%. You think you won't. You think that getting to the end game will be important to you. It's not. It's not. It's the journey. It really is 100% the journey. Just go and play the games. Play them without trading for a long time. Hang out with your friends. Do group content. Do all those things. But just don't worry about the money aspect. You don't need a whole bunch of gold sitting around for anything but to trivialize the actual gameplay of the game. And if you want to trivialize the gameplay of the game, you probably don't want to be playing that game.
Trade with other players or buy bonds. You need to earn everything yourself, which feels extremely rewarding. RuneScape 3 Iron Man mode only. RuneScape 3 is widely considered to be pay to win because you can buy your account to max within a day purely from swiping. Calling RS3 pay to win isn't really a controversial take. However, RuneScape 3 can be played with absolutely zero pay to win via the Iron Man mode. No trading, no cash shop, and earn everything yourself. This is the only way to play RuneScape 3 in my opinion, and probably the only way you can play and have your in-game accomplishments feel meaningful. Elder Scrolls Online is a buy-to-play MMO with an optional sub fee and a cash shop that contains cosmetic and convenience items. Anytime I've ever played ESO, I've never really felt the need to buy anything from the cash shop.
Totally not.
But the optional sub fee doesn't really feel optional and more mandatory, considering it gives you tons of DLC content that would otherwise cost you a lot of money to buy individually. I wouldn't consider ESO pay to win though, as the cash shop doesn't sell power or indirect ways to buy power. Star Wars The Old Republic.
Elder Scrolls Online is my sick game for some reason. It's on consoles, so I play on PlayStation. So anytime that I'm sick, I just lay on the couch and I just go around gathering mats and doing all those things. I love ESO, and yeah, it's super not pay to win. But there are people who really want the microtransaction items, the loot crates, and all of those things. It's very interesting. There's a whole black market, and you're allowed to do this. There's a whole black market crown trading crowns are their in-game currency, and you get them from being subscribed to Elder Scrolls Online. You get a stipend of them every single month. So there's a huge black market for those things. It's very peculiar.
Public is an MMO that advertises itself as a free-to-play game, but in reality the free-to-play aspect is basically just a free trial. Tons of content in Star Wars The Old Republic is locked behind the optional subscription, such as DLC, currency caps, level cap, access to raids and flashpoints. It's basically a sub-fee game with a free trial. SWTOR does have a cash shop, and here you can indirectly buy in-game currency by first buying cartel coins, buying an item off the cash shop, then listing that item for other players to buy with credits. You can earn these cartel coins in-game at a very slow rate, as well as get 600 per month from having an authenticator as well as subscription. Personally, I don't play SWTOR, but after some research it seems about the same level of pay to win as retail WoW. Since you can boost characters, a sub fee is basically required, and you can indirectly convert real money to in-game currency. Lord of the Rings Online, similar to Star Wars The Old Republic, is a free-to-play MMO where the free-to-play is basically a free trial, but to get access to most of the game's content you're going to want to pay the optional sub fee. Like most MMOs, Lord of the Rings Online is on the spectrum of pay to win, as the game sells XP boosts, buffs, and other convenience items that you don't really need, but might save you some time. Project Gorgon is...
LotRO is shockingly good. I don't know if anyone's ever played it. I'm sure that a lot of you guys who see this have played it, but it's surprisingly still a really, really good MMO. If you want a classic MMO kind of experience of, it takes sort of a long time to get going, the grinding is somewhat difficult, and you actually have risk of death in it. Adventuring is a really big part of it. Exploration is a really big part of it. If you love Middle Earth, you should try out Lord of the Rings Online. It's really still fun to play, whether solo or with a group, or fellowship in that game. It's a really, really good time. The world is obviously amazing. It looks pretty good considering its age. It's in the same vein to me as Dungeons and Dragons Online, that if you like the world and you like MMOs, it's basically made for you. You should go try it out. I mean, legitimately, it's surprisingly a blast. The gear progression is really, really solid. The leveling system is really, really solid. The quests are really enjoyable to do. The areas and the dungeon design is nice. It's a good game.
It's a classic MMO run on a shoestring budget by a tiny dev team. The game is free to play but offers an optional sub, a purchasable horse, and some cosmetics. Just under 50% of people voted this as pay to win, but I'm going to include it on this list as I disagree with them. Subscribing to this game gives you access to offline leveling and other small convenience, but I don't see how this is so much worse than other MMOs on this list that you basically can't play without a sub. I suppose we all have our own definition of pay to win, but for me the benefits gained from the optional sub maybe puts it on the spectrum of pay to win, but very low down.
Sherwood
Embers
Forest
Adrift,
game from back
another
in the day,
classic MMORPG. The 56% of votes that said this game is pay to win are retarded because it's literally just a buy to play sub fee MMO with no cash shop. Literally 0% pay to win. I was thinking that maybe some people consider sub fee as being pay to win, but that can't be right considering Final Fantasy XIV is one of the most popular in terms of votes.
Getting a sub.
Dislike the game all you want, but Embers Adrift definitely not pay to win. Mortal Online 2, a hardcore sandbox MMO that I covered on this channel earlier this year. This game is 0% pay to win. It's buy to play with a sub fee, you get a free 30 days of sub when you buy the game, and the game literally doesn't have a cash shop. No cash shop, yet over half of the votes say it's pay to win. Not sure if people are just uninformed or hating at this point. Guild Wars 1, definitely not pay to win. You can buy DLC, some character services, various account unlocks.
I want to play Guild Wars 1 so bad. I don't know when that's going to happen in my career, but I love the idea of this game. I love that it feels more like a CRPG. You're in zones, or you're in cities with people, and then you sort of group up with a team, and then you go out and you do these quests in these worlds. I think the combat looks really cool. It looks like an old school game to me, and that enthralls me like crazy. It's another game that I just sort of thought was another MMO when I was a kid. I never touched it. I never played it. And I mean, genuinely have put 0 minutes into this game. I really want to try it one day.
And some cosmetics, but that's about it. There's not really a whole lot to spend money on with this game, so if people consider Guild Wars 2 non-pay to win, then Guild Wars 1 is even less so. Palia is a cozy free-to-play life sim MMO and one of the few MMOs on this list that are both fully free-to-play and 0% pay-to-win. The game does have a cash shop, but the only things available for purchase are cosmetic outfits that have no functional benefits. Granted, these outfits are quite expensive. But that's pretty much it for the MMOs that on the spectrum of pay to win are either very low down or not pay to win at all.
Palia is a really interesting game because it's basically just a cozy crafting game, but in MMO format. They have a really good system where it sort of groups you with the people automatically that you're already friends with, the way that Brighter Shores is going to do. It seems like a really fun game. I just, I'm a combat boy, so it would be difficult for me to truly get into it, but on the list of games, it's up there because Tiff plays it, so I feel like I need to join her in that as well. It looks like a good time.
Like I said, everyone has their own definition of pay to win, what's acceptable, what's not. For me personally, I can deal with MMOs that are either buy to play or free to play, where the pay to win comes from a sub or battle pass, as the amount you can spend to gain an advantage.
Final Fantasy XIV's best trait, in my opinion, personally, as someone who doesn't love the story and isn't super enthralled by it, is the way that it looks. Their scenery, their set pieces, their backgrounds, everything looks great, and I think the aesthetic is absolutely top tier. But I love Final Fantasy aesthetic in general. I love boss design in Final Fantasy games. The over design, super complicated to look at, really intense. What's it called? artistry, line work, all those things. They're really sharp angles. I like that look. I think it's really, really cool.
Advantage is capped. What I truly hate is games with uncapped pay to win. Games where there's a massive difference between someone who spends $100 or $1,000, but then if someone spends 10k or even 100k, that difference is just as substantial. Diablo Immortal was probably one of the most blatant examples of this, but there's other games like BDO, Lost Ark, Arcade, and RuneScape 3 where it's very possible to spend thousands of dollars. Basically, if it's possible or even common to spend thousands of dollars on a certain MMO due to some frustrating progression system, then it's definitely pay to win in my eyes. I want to see more people vote on this pay to win poll, as I still think our sample size is pretty low, so please go to my YouTube community post and vote on the MMOs that you consider pay to win or not. I'll probably follow this video up with a most pay to win MMOs vid, as it could be quite fun to make. If you enjoyed the video, help us out with a like for the algorithm, as well as...
You guys give them a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Lazy Peon's obviously goated, and this video is super good if you're trying to look for games that aren't pay to win whatsoever in order to play. Yeah, I think that as far as my recommendations, definitely old school RuneScape is way up there for sure, obviously, because I'm me. Guild Wars 2 is definitely shaping up to be similar as well, and I think that if you like RuneScape, Guild Wars 2 is a game that you might be really, really interested in looking at if you haven't ever gotten into a WASD MMO before, because it has a sort of similar vibe of being very go around and do whatever you want to do in this game, and there's like points and quests where you work your way through it, but in general, it's very exploration-based and very world-based. And then, aside from those games, if you don't mind buying expansions and DLCs, Elder Scrolls Online is another great one that you can play without the subscription if you don't mind the challenge of it. If you don't mind having to deal with your mats constantly filling up your inventory and you having to use them as you get them and then sell things and not storing up a mat. If you're not a pack rat character, you could definitely play that one. But anyways, guys, I got to get off here. I got to go stream. It was nice hanging out, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye.